Petar, welcome. In the meantime, we had so many questions about WSET and the Court of Master Sommelier differences. Let's do this. Before the tasting, let's briefly talk about Court of Master Sommelier and WSET. Petar is a wine educator and he's a sommelier. He's both teaching Court of Master Sommelier and WSET classes in Macedonia. And you can maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can talk briefly the differences of the both approaches.
Okay, well, basically I worked a few years on cruise ships and Middle East. On a cruise ship I started working as a waiter, and basically through WSET I got my first job as a sommelier. Later on I worked in Middle East, in Bahrain, as a head sommelier for Wolfgang Puck Cut restaurant. After that, while I was actually in Dubai, I joined the Court Master Sommeliers, and I finished my level 1 and level 2, so intermediate and certified level of Court Master Sommeliers in Athens, Greece, in the same school where I'm doing the WSET diploma. Mm-hmm. And I finished my WSET level 2 while I was actually I did it online in Ghent, in Belgium. I have a very funny story about that, but anyway. And I finished my level 3 WSET in Milano Wine Academy, and actually that level 3 gave me the position in Bahrain as a head sommelier. So as you go up in WSET or any wine qualification that you do, that should also progress in your career as well. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
actually, sorry to interrupt you. When I announced about today's session, I used a picture. I don't know if you have seen it. I used 2 pictures of you. Court of Master Sommelier versus WSET. One picture was like in a suit. You were suited up, you were having your glass, and then the other one's like more informal and presenting because to me, like my understanding, first of all, without going into deep with the differences between Court of Master Sommelier and WSET, at first sight, it's this, like Court of Master Sommelier is much more formal and WSET more laid back.
Yeah, that's very true. It's like looking at the wine. One of the things that's the most apparent, it's the looks, how it looks. That's something that you can actually see. So, you know, if you would go inside the room, if there was, 100 people and it's only people that are doing the WSET and or Masters of Wine, and on the other side you would have the Court Master Sommeliers and the Master Sommeliers, I bet I could, distinguish who is who just by the appearance. So like you said, the master or the Court Master Sommelier is very suited, it's very, posh in a way. If you go to the classes and to the exam, you need to wear a suit, it's mandatory. Where, if you go to a WSET classes, it's freestyle, no one really cares. You shouldn't come in, in flip-flops and things like that, but, that's different.
I'm laughing because I remember an anecdote about you, if I may tell. So we did.
What's his name? Anton.
Sorry?
And Anton, the guy from Russia when we were in Mykonos.
Yeah, so we did the WSET diploma in Greece together with Petar. And the first module was in, we were so lucky. Yeah, that's how we met. The first module was in Santorini. We were so lucky to have one entire week in Santorini, thanks to Konstantinos Lazarakis. So if anyone is, I'm gonna do a little bit of publication here, advertisement. If anyone is planning to go to WSET diploma, I think school in Greece is a really nice place to study. Apart from getting one entire week in Santorini. Anyways, the first day class, I was sitting next to Petar. Petar and Anton, they did the Court of Master Sommelier just before WSET. And the first day, they came to the class like suited up. And Petar had like his what do you call it? Like before inside the jacket, the vest, vest, your jacket and your tie. And then we started the first class, and then Lazarakis said, okay, Petar, you look amazing, but tomorrow you don't need to come into the class like that. It was really nice.
And you're in Santorini, you know, so.
Yeah, exactly. We're in Santorini, you know, and it was April in Santorini. People are wearing shorts, you know. Petar is like really this. But anyways, you were looking so elegant.
Yeah, you live, you learn, you know.
Yeah, you live, you learn. Now you see, now he is with a hoodie, you know, he just got relaxed and now he is laid back. Okay, perfect. But apart from that, apart from the appearance, what differences there are in Court of Master Sommelier and WSET in terms of knowledge?
Yeah, I was actually watching one time the explanation from a Master of Wine. It was like a session for people that are interested to do the Master of Wine program, and basically Master of Wines were explaining the level of knowledge that is required to do the Master of Wine program, because it shouldn't be taken lightly. I mean, I'm not planning to do the Master of Wine. I don't have the in-depth knowledge what actually it takes, but the way that they explained, just to give you like a comparison between Court Master Sommeliers and WSET or MW knowledge that is required. When you do the Master of Wine or a WSET course, it's more about general knowledge and very wide wine knowledge, and it goes very deep, not so wide, but very deep into the subject. Where example would be, you know, like to talk about viticulture and to have a very comprehensive knowledge about viticulture. It's not something that, you know, when you're in a restaurant and a guest orders a bottle of wine, you're not gonna, you know, crush the guest with 15 minutes explaining the wine and the soil and whatever, you know. You're not gonna do any sale at that table. Where on the Court Master Sommelier program, it's very wide knowledge, much wider than WSET, but not so deep. So, you know, you can get a question. It's more about information about the specific producers. You definitely need to know like a specific producers from all over the world, where on the WSET program that's not required.
But you need to know the benchmarks in WSET. You need to know the really important examples, benchmarks, but you don't need to know every single producer of that style.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And also Court of Master Sommelier is more service oriented than WSET, right?
Yes, there's a quite a difference between the exam itself. When you do the WSET exams, people that did WSET, they know it's basically either theory or tasting. So when you come to the level 3, you have tasting part where you taste 2 wines blindly, and theory is basically 50 multiple questions, and then a little like a 5 question mini questions where you need to write. On the Court Master Sommeliers, when you do the intermediate, which is the 2nd level, basically you have very similar tasting like you do on the WSET. So you have 2 wines, they give you 1 white, 1 red, and then you do the tasting. The grid is it's actually quite different than from the WSET. We'll come to that later. And then the 3rd part with the Court Master Sommeliers is the service. In WSET you don't have the service. In Court Master Sommelier you have the service at the intermediate level, and then as you go up to the advanced and the master level, that service becomes harder. So you need to do simple things like, from level 2 you start with a catering service. Basically, they ask you to pour a bottle of champagne or a sparkling wine. You need to open it, you need to serve it, you need to come to the table and make us a recommendation for food and wine pairing. They can ask you questions about spirits, about cocktails,
And water as well. They can ask you questions about water.
Yeah, I didn't get that question. I didn't prepare for that. I don't remember that I got information for that. Even before, there was a cigar service, which is not included anymore. But some competitions they still include it. So yeah.
Okay. So actually, there's a question here in the meantime. Which online courses would you recommend for a wine lover who wants a bit more detailed knowledge?
Well, it all depends. Like if you're looking
Hi, David.
if David is asking the question, so it all depends. Like,
no, David is not asking the question. David is just said hi.
okay.
Leila is asking the question.
It all depends, like, what is the aim for your course. If you're just looking for, just expanding your wine knowledge, then basically, you can even just Google things online. But if the advance with WSET, for example, it is a structured way of learning about wine. So basically, what can happen if you learn by yourself? You can Google information that maybe a master of wine should know, and you can find that out on the internet. But you're gonna miss the information that you should know at WSET level 1. So, for example, before, even when I finished my level 2, I didn't understand what means styles of wine, and that's something that's should be very basic. And if you understand that, you're going to give yourself an advantage to have a very good base point of vocabulary where you can, where you don't even have to have like a very advanced knowledge, but you can talk about wine. You can understand why you like a certain wine and why you don't like it. So, I mean, I started with a WSET. I would definitely recommend WSET. You can, if you're a beginner, you can start with level 1. If you have already some knowledge, you can start with level 2. With WSET, you don't need to take the WSET courses. Like you don't need to start from 1, 2, and then 3. In some cases, people can do level 3 straight away, but you need to have like an online questionnaire or something like that, where you need to prove that you have sufficient knowledge to do the level 3 program.
Yeah, but I think I don't recommend to start right away from level 3 unless you are an industrial professional or if you have enough knowledge, because normally you need to, in WSET level 3, they already treat you like, okay, you know so many things and you already know how to taste, you're already a good taster, and they don't really explain you those steps. So if you are a wine lover and if you want to have a deeper knowledge, then go to level 1 or 2. But I personally, my experience or my point of view, normally I don't recommend doing this courses online. It's always, I think there's so much added value to do it presential, because you get to know, first of all, you get to know so many people that they are sharing the same passion with you. And then apart from the classes, you can also go and do online, do your tasting groups, study groups. But also presential is really important that you learn to do wine tasting. Yes, maybe online you can also follow a wine tasting course, but then in that case it needs to be interactive and you need to have the same wine that the person online is tasting so that you can compare and contrast.
Yep. Yeah. I can give you my example that perfectly explains what you said now. I did my level 2 online, and basically, I wanted to have like a certification in order for me to get a better job, in order for me to become a sommelier. Even though people get confused about this, they do a WSET course, am I a sommelier? I do a court master sommelier, am I a sommelier? It's not that simple. Basically, becoming a sommelier, it's a lot of things. It's doing the courses, that's great, but it's also learning and doing the job that makes you a good sommelier. I did my level 2 online for the WSET. And when I did, so I didn't do actually the tasting. I just, learned about wine online. which was great. But I missed that experience of tasting wine. I didn't know how to taste wine properly when I did it online. For me, in order for me to do the level 3, I knew that I had to, you know, calibrate my palate and learn how to taste wine systematically with WSET. So I did my level 3 in Milan, and you know, it's a 5 intensive days of tasting wines, and you understand how to taste wine properly with WSET. But later on, you use that knowledge and you taste the wines later on with a systematic approach.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so now let's do some tasting. I see that there's WSET level 2s, level 3s here, diploma holders actually they are here as well, but diploma students. So let's do a tasting. Before you joined, there was a question, there was asking, if there's in Court of Master Sommelier, if there's an also tasting sheet like a systematic approach tasting like WSET, I didn't know how to answer because I never did Court of Master Sommelier, sorry. So I don't know. Is there a tasting format that you have to follow?
Yes, yes. Before, and you can download the tasting program there. So with the Court Master Sommelier, there's actually now Court of Master Sommeliers Europe, and there's Court of Master Sommeliers United States. For Court of Master Sommeliers, if you go in United States, if you go to their website, it's very easy to download. There's a lot of free download information that you can download. And one of the things that you can download is the advanced approach to taste the wine through Court of Master Sommeliers grid. And they're quite different. They're similar in a way, but I need to, for me personally, I think the Court Master Sommeliers grid is way more difficult for me personally than the WSET, even the diploma level.
In which sense? What do you mean? Because of the describing the wine, or?
Yeah. And it's much more when you're describing the wine through Court of Master Sommeliers. It's not only about, you know, following the grid and tasting the wine through the grid. You need to have all that information before the final and the initial conclusion. Basically, like, you know, with the WSET before you come to the conclusion. With the Court of Master Sommeliers, all that information needs to be summarized in what's the grape variety, what's the potential grape variety, what's the potential region, what's the age of the wine. And then on the final conclusion, you need to, you know, say what's the grape, what's the region, what's the sub-region, what's the quality level, and what's the vintage. And you know, with the WSET, if you taste the wine properly, even if you miss completely the conclusion, you can still pass. With the Court of Master Sommeliers, if you tasted the wine perfectly, but from 6 wines, if you don't guess correctly, educated, if you don't guess it correctly, at least they never say how much wine you need to guess properly. But if you don't guess 3 or 4 grape varieties and the regions, you're probably not going to pass. Okay.
Yeah, it is total different approaches, and I don't know. I started with WSET, and I never considered actually to the Court of Master Sommelier. I found that WSET much more like closer to what I wanted and what I was looking for, and also I was not considering to work on the floor, so that's why I thought I don't need sommelier certification, maybe like from Court of Master Sommelier. So it's like, I think it's a different approaches. It depends on the personality to choose either or, and what you're expecting in your wine career, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, Court Master Sommelier is very service oriented. So if you're looking for a job that's related to hospitality, Court Master Sommelier is great. With WSET, you can still work in hospitality. I started working as a sommelier with WSET, but with WSET, there's no service part.
Okay, so let's do the tasting. Serkan is asking, can you give a live example reviewing your wine from both perspectives, Court of Master Sommelier and WSET? Yeah. Here, actually, I'm now leaving it to you, freestyle. You do your tasting the way you want to do it.
Okay, so I have two wines. Actually, I changed the Cabernet Sauvignon. I didn't use the Cabernet Sauvignon. I'm going to use two local wines. I'm in North Macedonia. So I'm gonna use local Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
Wines are from very good producers. Local Sauvignon Blanc from Kamnik Winery, and Pinot Noir from Lazar Winery.
Okay, I never tasted actually Macedonian wines. I was gonna say I never tasted Macedonian Sauvignon Blanc, but then I realized I never tasted any Macedonian wine.
Yeah, I had there was a Caroline Gilby here. We had like Avranac Day. Avranac is the most important red grape variety in Macedonia. They even made like Avranac Day, and MW Caroline Gilby was here, and I was at this one winery stand, and then she came to the stand and she asked the sommelier at the table, like, okay, so what do you have? And he said like Sauvignon Blanc. And she made like a comment, so should I even bother tasting it? You know, what should I expect from a Sauvignon Blanc from Macedonia? In that way, but anyway. But there is wineries that are making some great wines. Actually, now on Mundus Wine, Macedonia got like 28 gold medals, which is the amount of wineries that are competing in Mundus from Macedonia. It's a very huge number.
And there's also a lot of history in Macedonia in winemaking.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, let's start.
Okay. So basically, I'll do like a comparison. I'll do the site from WSET, and then I'll do the site from the Court Master Sommelier.
Okay.
Okay. So when you do the WSET tasting, basically they tell you straight. Let me just turn on the light. They tell you straight away, you know, site is not something that you should waste too much time. So when you do I don't have the grid here in front of me, so if I forget anything from the WSET, let me know. So when you're looking at the color, the site, the WSET, you're looking for two, maybe three things. So you're looking at the color itself. Is it lemon, gold, or amber? And then you're looking for intensity. Intensity is how much color it has. So this Sauvignon Blanc has medium intensity of lemon color. And then maybe if the wine has any deposit, if it has sediment, if it has any petulance, when you do the diploma level, you should also comment on that. So you're going to get 2 or maybe 3 points on the site, right? When you do the Court Master Sommeliers, it's more difficult. They're basically looking at the color, the intensity, the viscosity. You're looking if there's any sediment or gas or extraction. So basically, this wine I would describe as this wine. You should also comment on the if the wine is clear. On WSET, they're going to tell you that you shouldn't even bother saying the wine is clear. You know, all wine should be clear. On the Court Master Sommelier, you need to say all these things. So the wine is clear, is medium lemon color. Then you should say that the viscosity here is medium. There's no evidence of gas or sediment. And then for red wines, you should also comment on extraction. If the wine has more extraction, then that could give you indication maybe was the grape variety or the alcohol level, or just the type of extraction that is used for that style of wine. Okay. Then on the nose for WSET, the first thing, again, the wine should be clean. Then you're looking for intensity on the nose. Sauvignon Blanc, you know, of course, it's going to be pronounced every single time. It's an aromatic grape variety. Then you come to the aromas. Before WSET had this, is the wine youthful, developing, or fully developed? So we don't have that anymore. Basically, the way you describe the wine is you're going to describe is the wine youthful, developing, or fully developed. So that means if the wine is more tertiary, that means it's either fully developed or past its best date. So the descriptors are going to be focused on that tertiary aromas. If the wine is youthful, then your description should be more focused on that youthful primary fruit aromas. And if the wine is developing, basically it's going to have primary, secondary, and maybe some indication of tertiary aromas. So this is a 2018 Sauvignon Blanc. So on the nose is clean, pronounced intensity of when you describe the fruit. That's something that I use also for WSET and for the court. You know, you can say the wine smells like green apple, and lemon. But maybe you can put a little bit more emphasis is that when you say green apple, you know, you should indicate that the wine is fresh. But if you just say apple, you're not really saying anything. So you should, you know, determine the ripeness level of that apple. So in this case, the wine is fresh, has this green apple character, lemon peel, a little bit flowery notes of elderflower. And then I also get a little bit of a little bit riper aromas like peach and apricot here. Okay. Also, one major difference between WSET and Court Master Sommelier tasting is the vocabulary for minerality and earthiness. When you do WSET, you don't talk about mineral. There is a small, very small, tiny section on minerality for, I think, a description like steel or wool. For earthiness, I don't believe on the grid there is anything mentioning earthiness. Like there is actually like
there is like forest floor, yeah.
But it's basically like a cluster of tertiary. Is it tertiary aromas? Is it, you know, the aroma of the grape itself? It's not really, my opinion, it's not very well defined. It comes in a tertiary section, where for the court master sommeliers, that minerality and earthiness is totally separate section that you must mention if, of course, the wine has those characteristics.
Okay.
For this wine, there is slight minerality, but you know, I wouldn't put too much focus on it. Okay. Also, okay, let's do for the court master sommeliers. Again, it would be very similar. You would go into you would say the wine is clean. You would describe the intensity. There is one word, and this is also this was a little bit confusing. They would classify the wine. You would need to classify the wine. Is the wine youthful, or is the wine winous? Winous means basically the wine is developing.
Sorry, I didn't understand. You said youthful or?
I think it's pronounced vinous.
Okay.
So basically, you would describe the wine. Is the wine youthful, or if the wine is developing? And later on, you would go into the description of the fruit. So things that you need to mention, of course, is the primary fruits. On the tasting for the CMS, if you're not sure that the wine has oak, you can say maybe there is traces of oak here, but I'll confirm that on the palate. Then when you taste the wine, then you're going to confirm definitely if the wine has oak or not. And you're not going to go into details if it's a new oak or old oak, or that's something that I got advice from a friend. When you do the tasting, if the wine has oak, just say the wine has oak. Don't try to be smart and say, you know, this is a new French oak, or this is a old, or it's a 30 something blend. If the wine has oak, it has oak.
But in the versus WSET, in the oak, if you say the wine has oak, you don't get any points. You need to describe the flavors of the oak, like you have to say vanilla or coconut. You need to show the indications.
On the court master as well, you need you know, to use the descriptors for the oak. It's not just like, you know, the wine has oak. You need to use you know, descriptors like vanilla, coconut, or, you know, chocolate, coffee for red wine. Okay. Should we do the palate?
Yes, let's do the palate.
If there's any question, just
there are questions. Yeah, there are questions, and I'll come to that afterwards. Okay. Let's finish the tasting, and then we can respond to questions.
Okay. So the wine is dry. So I'm doing the WSET first. The wine is dry, high acidity, medium bodied, medium alcohol, pronounced intensity of citrus like lemon, lime, peach, apricot. Little grassy notes like fresh cut grass, asparagus. The flavors are, you know, it's a combination of freshness and also ripeness of the fruit, and the finish is medium plus. So that would be a WSET style. For the court master sommelier, basically it would be, with the court master sommeliers, first you would do the structure. So you would do the sweetness, the acidity, the alcohol. If the wine has tannins, you would comment on tannins, body. And after you finish the structure, then you would go on the describing the flavors itself. So you would go primary, secondary, tertiary aromas. One main difference also with the court master sommelier and WSET, on court master sommeliers, they explain the complexity. Where basically on the WSET they do as well, but it's like a separate vocabulary where you describe the ripeness of the fruit, the complexity of the wine or simplicity, and you do the finish.
Okay. And then you do the quality assessment in WSET. In court, do you need to do that as well?
Yeah, that's one of the things that you would need to determine. So the conclusion is basically the biggest difference between the court and WSET. If we're talking about WSET level 4, diploma level, when you come, that diploma level is actually the conclusion. It's quite different than from the rest. Up to the diploma level, basically when you come to the conclusion, you're determining the quality level. You're going to say if the wine is faulty or outstanding or everything in between. And on level 3, you also do by the way, you use the Blitz system for determining the quality, balance, length, intensity, complexity. And for level 3, you do also aging potential. And that's also, I think, a little bit confusing topic. You know, when you're starting doing level 3, how can I assess the potential of the wine, right? I don't have that experience too. But basically, it's just like, you know, you need to do a little bit of tasting. You need to have a little bit experience in order to determine if the wine will be better than it is now. So basically, you're going to determine, listen, this wine is drink now, doesn't have potential for aging. You can drink now, but has a potential maybe for a few years. Drink now, wine doesn't have potential for aging, or this wine is, you know, declining and is past its best.
Or it is too young to drink now.
Yeah, that would be the case for a wine that basically it's a waste of drinking that wine now. That wine will become way better in, let's say, 5 years. So we're talking about wines that have huge potential for aging and will become much better than they are at the moment.
Okay. There was a few questions. Gonja is asking if I'm going to record this session. After the session, I will leave it up in the story, so it can be like 24 hours accessible. And then I might try to record it. And then if anyone wants to see it again, we can maybe provide it. And then another question was here, if you guys have any specific question related to the tasting, let us know. But apart from that, there's a question from Ricardo. He's also a diploma holder and wine academicer. He's asking, from Court of Master Sommelier point of view, where minerality is coming from in wine. Yeah, that's a very controversial topic, minerality.
Yeah, for me, honestly, even when I'm more focused, especially here in Macedonia, which is a very young wine knowledge market. You know, I love, you know, explaining wines through WSET level 1 and level 2, because it really gives you the, you know, that base knowledge that you need in order to advance a little bit further and, you know, to get more comfortable talking about wine. Minerality, where it comes from, I get minerality in wines that are from cooler climates. I get that minerality and earthiness from wines that are not super ripe and super bold. Like, for example, Macedonia is a very warm country. It can be considered like a new world. Honestly, I don't get too much earthiness and minerality in the wines. Where, you know, if you get like a Chablis, you know, people that want to understand what means minerality, I would definitely recommend to taste something like a Chablis or, you know, a Santorini. These are perfect classic examples for if you never taste the wine, or you do taste wine but you want to understand minerality in white wines, taste these two wines. Where does it come from? Honestly, I'm not gonna go into that until, you know, scientists or, you know, whoever says, you know, why minerality comes from this and this, then, you know, I'll agree with that.
Yeah, because that's a whole debate about minerality. So then let's look in viticulture and winemaking. Janet is asking, is there any lesson or applied training regarding viticulture winemaking in field for WSET diploma or Court of Master Sommelier? I will explain this from the WSET diploma point of view. Normally, it is not obliged to have any training regarding to this in the field, but depending on where you do your WSET diploma, depending on their structure, you can go in the field as well. For example, in Greece, we were doing this winemaking and viticulture section in Santorini. For about 6 days, we were visiting different wineries of Santorini, and we were in the field. We were talking to the winemakers, viticultures, and seeing it there. And as far as I know, if you do the WSET in Rust, diploma in Rust in Austria, they also do field trips. That is depending on where you do your diploma. But Court of Master Sommelier, I have no idea. What do you say, Petar?
No, the Court Master Sommelier, if you go to, it depends where you go. I'm not going to advertise the Court Master Sommeliers in Greece, but I need to mention it because when you do the court master sommeliers courses, I'm not saying that's everywhere. From my experience in Greece, after every session, we went to a restaurant and tasted the wines in the restaurants, and it was an amazing experience. But there was no field trips.
Field trips, yeah.
My suggestion would be, you know, do the courses, and then, you know, do a year in a winery. You know, to really understand viticulture and vinification, it's a 1 year, at least 1 year program. So, you know, you're gonna start in February with in the vineyards, and then, you know, finish in the winery at the end of the harvest. So, combination of theory and practice.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So, Petar, I think there is only around 5-6 minutes to finish the session, because if I want to record it, we shouldn't over time, so that the session can stay there. So let's think about, like, we have 5-6 minutes to finish. What do you want to do? Do you want to quickly taste the reds?
Yeah, we can taste
as well. Yeah, okay. And then when you taste the red, there is a question from Serkan. He says, if I missed, I'm not sure if I missed it, but I didn't understand the difference in conclusion part between WSET and Court of Master Sommelier. Maybe you can do that now with the red wine.
Yeah. So basically, like I said, we didn't do it. You didn't miss it. So basically, when we come to the conclusion, that's the main difference between WSET and court. So on the WSET, when you come to the diploma level, that can be a variety of questions that they can ask you. They can ask you what's the grape variety. They can ask you if it's a sparkling wine, what's the style of winemaking for that sparkling wine. They can even ask you, for example, where would you sell this wine and why. So on the diploma level, there is, you know, there's a lot to think about on the quality, on the conclusion section. On the court master sommelier, it's straightforward. You need to, there's an initial conclusion and a final conclusion. So the main difference is, on the initial conclusion, you would say, this is a potentially this and this grape variety from this and this region. Potential age range between 3 and 5 years, let's say. Where on the final conclusion, you say, this is the region, this is the country, this is the grape variety, this is the quality hierarchy level in the region. You would say, basically, if it's from a good producer, that doesn't really, you know, we're not gonna go into that. And then you would say a specific year that you think the wine comes from. So you would get points definitely if, you know, if you say, for example, it's let's say a Gruner Veltliner, and maybe if you say that is you know, a Chardonnay, maybe from a cool climate, and maybe there's a similarity between the style of the grapes and the wines, you would definitely get some points. So let's say if you say that it's a Gruner Veltliner, you know, but it's actually a Chardonnay, you would get points because, you know, the style would be, the wine would be in a similar style. So when you come to the conclusion, you need to, the first thing that you're gonna say is the wine, do you think the wine comes from a new or old world? So that, and you should give a reasoning why you think like that. So if you say that the wine is from a new world, you know, your explanation would be in a sense that the wine has high alcohol, ripe fruit, that the wine is fruit dominated, maybe oak is, you know, American oak. That would be your indication of new world, maybe lack of minerality, lack of earthiness. Then you would say potential grape varieties, potential regions, potential countries. And then you would say the age range that you think the wine is. So let's say 1 to 3 years or 3 to 5. Then on the final conclusion, you're going to say the grape variety, you're going to say the region, the country, the quality level. If the wine has, if you say, let's say, for example, Red Rioja, you know, you should indicate is that Crianza, Reserva, Gran Reserva, and then you're going to say the exact vintage that you think the wine is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, let's taste the red.
Yeah. And by the way, on the court master sommeliers, when you come to the advanced level, you have 6 wines, 25 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. In WSET diploma, I think you have 6 wines in half an hour. No. No. It was 40 minutes. 6 wines.
It's basically 10 minutes per wine.
Yeah. In diploma.
Yes. In court master sommelier, so 25 minutes for 6 wines, it's around 4 minutes.
Yeah,
so
it's
very intense.
Yeah. Okay.
To the red wine, this is medium ruby color. On the wine, on the nose, the wine is medium plus intensity of tart red fruit like cherries, strawberries, raspberries. And on the back, there's this earthiness that comes from Pinot Noir, like mushrooms and forest floor. That's a good question. I would ask a question: where does this earthiness, this mushroom that Pinot Noir is very recognizable from, where does it come?
Where does it come from?
On the palate, the wine is dry, medium plus acidity, medium tannins, ripe, silky.
That's really important in WSET to describe it, I mean, the diploma level, to describe the quality of the tannins. Yeah. Not only medium plus or medium, but describe the tannins.
High alcohol, medium plus body. On the palate, the wine is a little bit more riper than on the nose here. The fruit is still fresh, but has a little bit more ripeness. Medium plus pronounced intensity of ripe strawberry, cherry, raspberry, mushroom, and forest floor. Medium plus finish. I don't get any evidence of oak. Medium plus finish. Quality, very good.
Perfect. Now I feel like drinking a Pinot Noir. Actually, going back to your comment about the earthiness, forest floor and mushroom aromas of Pinot Noir, I think there's also a debate about this that we can also discuss. Does it really come, this earthiness, does it really come from the grape itself or the terroir? By the way, it's last 23 seconds left. I need to close the session because otherwise we are going to lose the recording. Maybe we can come back to this again in another session.